Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Stampede. My name is Ryan Jones, along with my good friend Ashton Yanez. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether it's your morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We're back for another edition of the Stampede. Not a whole lot going on in the football world because we have to wait a whole another week for Super Bowl 50. What number is it? What Super Bowl is this?
4.
54?
I'm pretty sure it's 54. Let me double check. Oh, no. I take that back. Maybe. No,
It's 55. It's 55.
it is 55 because
Super Bowl LV.
was Rams and Patriots.
It is Super Bowl LV 55. So we're not going to be talking about the Super Bowl today. We're going to wait till next week for all their Super Bowl madness, the Super Bowl coverage. Today is going to be basically a mock draft spectacular. We're going to be reacting to Mel Kiper's, one of the best in the business, his mock draft. We're going to be talking about Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft. I have a few picks from each draft I want to kind of discuss with Ashton. And also, reports are Stafford is close to being traded to the San Francisco 49ers. We'll talk about that and how that would shape the landscape of the NFC. And Deshaun Watson, apparently today, it is being reported weeks ago he requested a trade. It is barely being reported today. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson again and potential teams for him. So let's begin with that. Deshaun Watson has officially requested a trade from the Houston Texans. Reports came out the Bears are expected to make a big push for him, which I think is a great fit there. I like the coach in Chicago. I like the defense. But the betting favorite as of now is the Miami Dolphins, followed by the Jets with the second best odds and the Denver Broncos with the third best odds. Ashton, I'd like to hear your take on the Deshaun Watson situation.
It's definitely unique because Deshaun Watson, he has one goal in mind in regards to getting traded out of Houston. That's being in a team that's best positioned for him to win. And then for the Houston, they want to be in make a trade that best positions for them to actually come back, at least get out of the hole that Bill O'Brien made for them. So if you're Deshaun Watson, the ideal team would be either the Miami Dolphins or the 49ers, because if the 49ers are all, healthy and just find ways to move their money around to pay for Deshaun Watson, because I'm sure Texans still pay for some of it, they're instantly a Super Bowl contender again. Like they were already a playoff contender with Jimmy Garoppolo. We put in Deshaun Watson with all those weapons, with a healthy defense and Kyle Shanahan. I mean, that's going to be darn near unstoppable in the NFC. I don't think even the Bucs could stop them. The Dolphins are another good look because they're a team that does have the capital, but they also have already some good players and a good coaching staff. So they've already proven that they can play even without their upcoming first round draft picks. If you're the Texans, though, you're probably eyeing the Jets because the Jets, they do have the most. They really have the most, capital in regards to this trade. You can get that second round, that second overall pick. You can get another first round pick, possibly even, a high second round pick for Deshaun Watson and even Sam Darnold, so that you at least have some quarterback stability in the QB room. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I have to say that because there is a no trade clause, Deshaun Watson will ultimately decide where he goes.
Exactly.
So, I mean, based on the situations, I have to think that the Dolphins, unless the Niners have some blockbuster, trade going on, I really see the Dolphins being the more realistic, especially since that at least gives some capital to the Texans while also fulfilling the needs of having a competitive team for Deshaun Watson to play for. So, but it can be anyone's game. There's, supposedly 7-8 teams that are all eyeing at Deshaun Watson, possibly trying to get him, via trade, finding ways to, reach out to him and say, hey, we can make our team compelling to you for this many reasons. But it's going to be interesting, and it's definitely something that's rare in the NFL. You rarely have someone as talented as Deshaun Watson, someone in their prime, someone who's just fresh off an extension, being all of a sudden in the quarterback carousel. Like it just never really happens. The closest thing we have to this is Kirk Cousins, and he was, already creeping to his 30s already from a different extension. So this is a unique situation.
Well, I'd argue this has never happened. You've never seen a 25-year-old quarterback who is top 5 in the NFL at his position, if not top 10, depending on wherever you want your rankings. He's one of the best to do it in the NFL right now. Heisman Trophy winner, right? He won a Heisman, right? Didn't he?
Did he?
No. Now multiple
Yeah.
national championships. He obviously tore up Alabama's defense in college, and Dabo Swinney calls him the Michael Jordan of the NFL. If I'm Watson, I think the 49ers would be my preferred destination. I don't know if it's going to happen or if the 49ers are. Well, I think the 49ers are obviously going to be interested, but reports came out that they are close to trading for Matthew Stafford, which I think even with Matthew Stafford, we'll talk about that later, but um, yeah. So the Niners will be my preferred destination, but if I'm Deshaun Watson and the Niners aren't not in play here, I really think I would push for the Miami Dolphins. And we say that because we like the coach. Brian Flores is a great head coach. He's turned them around in 2 years. And it makes sense for Houston as well. They can get multiple first round picks, and Tua Tagovailoa, who was a highly coveted quarterback coming out of last year's draft class. A lot of people are kind of backing off Tua because he did struggle year one in the NFL. I'm not ready to give up on Tua yet, just because of his pedigree in college. He was a really good college player. He's accurate, a little bit mobile, and but this conversation is not about Tua. It's about Deshaun Watson, right? I'm really intrigued to see what Chicago, the Bears, could offer for Deshaun Watson, because as far as quarterbacks are concerned, they have nothing to give in return. If you want to talk about draft capital, they would give up obviously their first round pick this year, which is the 20th overall pick. You'd probably have to give up your first round next year and probably the year after that, because Chicago, let's be real here. If they were to acquire Deshaun Watson, they are not going to be picking very low in the draft for years to come, right? You'd probably also have to give up multiple players. And I honestly think even Khalil Mack could be on the table, right? Because I think Deshaun Watson is that pedigree of player. Because if I'm the Texans, Nick Foles isn't going to cut it, right? I think Nick Foles is still under contract with them. If he's not, I'm mistaken there. But it's going to be really interesting to see what comes of this. I don't think the Broncos have a shot at him. And if I'm Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't want to go to the Jets anyways, even though I think the Jets make the least amount of sense, but it might be the most ideal trade partner for Houston as an organization, because they have all the picks, right? They have Sam Darnold, like you said. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I don't want to go to the Jets. The Jets have been a mess for years, and they have nothing to offer offensively or defensively. So I like the Bears and the Dolphins a lot. If he went to New England, I think it would be great. I think the New England would be great again, despite the lack of weapons surrounding them. I think if I don't, the Colts fans can throw this out of the window because it's not going to happen, right? The Colts have no shot at getting him. They're interdivision. There's no way that Houston would trade him to the Colts and then have to turn around and play him twice a year for the next 10 years, right? It's not going to happen. And twice a year, just be reminded that you screwed up so badly and you gave away one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. So, unless you have anything else you want to add on the Watson situation, we can transition to the other quarterback that is on the slate today.
No, I just want to say best of luck to Deshaun Watson, and I hope whatever team he lands at, that it ends up being really well, and he ends up pursuing, a playoff career that he's dreamed of having since he entered the NFL.
Well, wherever Watson goes, he's going to be successful. So
yeah.
All right, so the next other quarterback on the market, it's very rare you see two top 10 quarterbacks in the league on the market. Reports are that Stafford is close to being traded to the San Francisco 49ers. I put together a potential trade package of what I think would cost. I think obviously the 49ers would have to send over Jimmy Garoppolo for one. They'd have to send over the number 12 pick, which they own in this draft, and probably more. I just put plus more because I don't know how many seconds or how many other firsts it's going to cost. But that is the bare minimum of what you're going to have to trade for Matthew Stafford. And then the Lions would obviously trade Matthew Stafford, and maybe like they swap fourth round picks, because that seems to be something teams do for some reason. And I kind of want to talk about how Stafford to the 49ers would kind of change the landscape of the NFC West and the NFC. So for one, the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan in this defense made it all the way to the Super Bowl where they had a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter, right? Or was it 13 points? It was something like that, right? They
Yeah,
were
that's
up
something close.
they were up by multiple scores in the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl. And that is with Jimmy Garoppolo, who is not a top 10 quarterback in this league.
Very inconsistent.
Very, very inconsistent play. If the 49ers were to get Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe they should be not only the favorites in the NFC West to come out of that division, I think they should be the favorites in the NFC over the Packers and over the Buccaneers. Because, look, the only reason the 49ers were not a good team this year is because of all the injuries that happened. If none of those injuries happened, they would have been right back in the playoff picture because of how good of a coach Kyle Shanahan is, how good of a coach Robert Saleh is. I mean, he's not on the staff anymore, but, you know, he's a great defensive coach, and they have so many talented defensive players. And they have a lot of talent offensively, too. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. It seems no matter who's at running back for them, he always performs well because of how good the scheme is and the offensive line. If the 49ers are able to acquire Matthew Stafford, who has constantly and consistently performed each week for the Detroit Lions, only for the Detroit Lions franchise to screw him over constantly, if the Niners were able to acquire him, 49ers should be the favorite in the NFC.
I have to agree. I think Matthew Stafford has, on paper at least for himself, has played consistently well in the NFL, but because he's been playing for, a rough organization like Detroit, who never really got the leadership roles right. They never got the GM right, the head coach right. They never, they always had a hard time drafting after they used their top 15 pick. After that, it just kind of plummets. They get lucky every now and then. They get Calvin Johnson, or you have to go further back and acknowledge Barry Sanders. But this is a team that is consistently just trying to just get the best players they can on the board and then hope something happens. There's no real leadership other than Matthew Stafford there in Detroit. And I really think if you put him in a position with like the 49ers, a team that, if healthy, is already, a top 3 team in the NFL, yeah, I mean, they should easily be a NFL contender, a Super Bowl tender, basically, and be able to, play, match for match with either Tampa Bay or Kansas City. Both teams are in the Super Bowl this year. So as long as they can stay away from that Santa Clara water, if they can get Matthew Stafford, they would be a legit team to beat. I mean, Jared Goff would definitely be falling behind in a tier of good quarterbacks in that division. It wouldn't be close anymore on who was the best and worst quarterbacks in the NFC West.
Yeah, I had a conversation on Twitter today. There is a conversation to be had of whether who's the better quarterback, whether it's Stafford or Kyler Murray. That's a discussion for another day, I think. But I would, at this point, I think I would lean towards Stafford. I think they're very close. I think they're both really good quarterbacks, but I think I'd lean towards Stafford right now. Plus, his situation if he got traded to San Francisco would be a lot better than Kyler Murray's in Arizona. And not only that, it's just, look, I know people are gonna freak out listening to me say I think they should be the favorites in the whole NFC, right? You have the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Seahawks are in there every year. Okay, and I'd like to address each of those teams and the issues that they face as a team, right? Okay, the Buccaneers, look, I know they're in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's going to be a year older. You have a lot of question marks on the offensive side of the ball with all of the veterans you have. You don't know if Antonio Brown's going to be back. Chris Godwin's a free agent. You really hope you can re-sign him, right? Mike Evans is nothing but a jump ball receiver. Your running back situation is horrible. And I don't think any of them are really that great. So, and the offensive line's plays pretty inconsistent there. So, and the defense as well, it's a young defense and they're performing very well as of late, but you just don't know, right? And I just think I don't envision the Buccaneers making, a back-to-back Super Bowl run. The Packers. Well, they've shown an inability to surround Aaron Rodgers with talent year in and year out, right? And who's to say they won't do it again, right? So that's a big question mark. Seattle, don't even get me started. They can't even figure out how to run a freaking normal offense, right? Russell Wilson's always scrambling for his life and trying to do everything on his own because his offense coordinator is living in the 80s and wants to run the ball on first down and second down and then throw it deep on third down. It's a very, very obvious formula. The Rams. Jared Goff's not even a top 15 quarterback anymore in the NFL. Any other NFC teams I'm missing? The Bears, unless they get Watson, they're not going to make the playoffs again. So I just think there's a lot of question marks in the NFC, and the Niners, all those guys coming off an injury, and Matthew Stafford put in, even with Jimmy Garoppolo, I think the Niners should be the favorites next year in the NFC. But, I'm buying my Niners stock for next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up making a run with Jimmy Garoppolo or Matthew Stafford next year.
Yeah, no, I mean, they already have a stacked team, again, as we both already agreed on. Their team's already stacked, and whether they get Stafford or not, they're still going to be deep in the playoffs, assuming they're all healthy. If they get Stafford, I mean, pretty much the only teams that will have a chance to stop them is Tampa Bay, assuming that they reload and restock, and Kansas City. Those are really the only two teams that would be a threat to them in the NFL. And, just think of just last year of how dominant they were with Jimmy Garoppolo, who was playing inconsistent. It's not like he was, he didn't stick out as a quarterback stats-wise. It's not like he was top 5 in passing yards, top 5 in passing touchdowns. He was throwing picks, and yet they were still doing well. So I think if you get a more consistent guy like Matthew Stafford, who's, a little bit older, who's less money, it seems like a better fit under Kyle Shanahan's offense.
All right, and I think that's pretty much, unless you have anything else you want to add, I think we're going to move on.
No, best of luck to Matthew Stafford. Really happy that he's leaving Detroit.
Yeah. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get in the mock draft of things, and we're going to react to some of the biggest names in the business. Mel Kiper, who is honestly probably the only reason that we could talk about the NFL draft, one of the oldest vets in the game, and Daniel Jeremiah, one guy who I really respect the work he does, and so yeah, let's get down to it. So I'm going to start with Mel Kiper, Ashton. I have basically five picks that I have selected for each of these drafts that they both constructed, and I am going to tell you about it, give you my opinion, and I want you to tell me what you think about it. So here we go.
Okay.
So with the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft, Mel Kiper has the Miami Dolphins selecting Devontae Smith, number 3 overall. I'm not a fan of the Dolphins going wide receiver here, for one. For two, I don't think Devontae Smith's the best receiver in this class. And it seems like Kiper and Todd McShay are the only two draft analysts I have seen out there that have Devontae Smith going that high. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. I screwed up.
I was going to say, I just looked down the thing.
Yeah. So Kiper has, excuse me. So let's go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and like restart all that. So yeah, all right. So Mel Kiper has the Jets picking Devontae Smith, number 2 overall. I don't see, look, I think that Kiper and McShay, those are, they kind of work together or whatever. I think they are still tied to their draft analysis years ago of Sam Darnold, because I think they both think Sam Darnold's going to be like a star quarterback. And I think that is why they have them going Devontae Smith. Plus, it's very early on in the draft process. And Devontae Smith's not even the best receiver in this class, at least in my opinion. I don't know where you stand on that, but most draft analysts, including myself and all around, have Jamar Chase as the number 1 wide receiver. They have I think this pick right here was kind of just meant for the headlines. So give me your thoughts on Devontae Smith going to the Jets.
Well, first I'll start off by talking about their decision of believing the Jets will keep Sam Darnold. it's definitely not the favorite decision that most people think is going to happen. And obviously, Deshaun Watson, it's not like he said that New York's not an option for him. He's yet to say to narrow his options basically. But if you're the Jets, it doesn't seem like a bad idea to actually test the quarterback that you drafted and actually give him talent to work with. Because what talent has he had to work with other than a 40-year-old running back? That's been your best weapon, really. You have a couple decent wide receivers that were picked up in like the second, third round, but this team really just doesn't have a lot of talent. It has some defensively, but it's really lacking so much. And if you keep your picks, you could at least make all 3 picks commit to the offense. All of a sudden, that's 3 things that's going to actually help Sam Darnold. You give him 1 offensive lineman, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end. It's a team that at least has a good offense. And then if Robert Saleh, new head coach, defensive minded, he's going to find a way to make that defense work, with second, third, fourth round picks and the guys that they already have. So I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's at least not terrible. It's a mediocre decision. It's still ways that can help you long term. And because you're keeping Sam Darnold, you don't have to pay up for a quarterback. Even if you just extend him, he ends up doing well.
Well, that's the thing, though. If you keep Sam Darnold, you're going to end up paying for a quarterback in a year because you have to re-sign him after next year. And
but based on Sam Darnold's success,
if he performs well, you're going to have to give him over $30 million. And that puts you, yes, you are. You're going to have to. Otherwise, another team will. If he performs well next year, you have to. And that's what he will go for because he's a quarterback, right? Nick, I think you're forgetting. Sam Darnold, look, Sam Bradford got paid. Nick Foles got paid. So it's not crazy. And I really think...
I bet you all those teams regret doing it.
Yeah, but that's just how it works.
Osweiler got paid.
Yeah, Osweiler got paid after playing well for like 5 games. It happens, and it's going to keep happening because teams that don't have a quarterback aren't good, and they won't perform well. And that's just the business. You have to pay for a quarterback. You should take Zach Wilson at number 2. You should. That's what should happen. Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever you feel is the number 2 quarterback in this draft, because Zach Wilson, look, I think Zach Wilson I think he's up there with Trevor Lawrence, just a tick behind him. This Zach Wilson is unbelievable, and I just don't. You need to reset because after a year of successful football with Sam Darnold, if that happens, that's not even guaranteed. Sam Darnold showed nothing over his freaking career to warrant getting an extension. But if he shows anything next year, you're going to have to extend him, and then you're in cap hell and can't build around him. Look at Seattle. They can't build around Russell Wilson because they paid him. I don't feel like there's any way you can justify taking Devontae Smith with the 2nd pick. I don't see a way you can justify it.
Okay, well, anyway, we'll continue with the actual pick itself. Devontae Smith is definitely a standout athlete. We can at least agree on that. He won the Heisman and became the first wide receiver to win the Heisman for a reason since 91, 92, somewhere around there. He's definitely a standout receiver. A lot of analysts do like Jamar Chase better out of LSU. He's definitely a guy who's been dominating the college football level more often. He's definitely had NFL talent already around him at LSU when he was playing for the national championship Tigers. He's definitely a solid wide receiver 1. But so is Devontae Smith. To me, this is kind of a coin toss because you either get someone who is already bred as a pro wide receiver, or you get Devontae Smith, who might not necessarily have as much professional expertise, though he did play under Nick Saban, so it can't be that far behind. He is, in my opinion, a little bit more talented. I think he can do a lot of things, cause a lot of problems for secondaries. I think he's really fast, good footwork, can create separation whenever he wants. So I don't know. I can't complain. I think Devontae Smith and Chase, they're pretty much 50-50. It just depends on your system. We're not exactly sure what the Jets' offense is going to be like because they have a new OC. But I'm sure either way they would have found a way for either Devontae Smith or Chase to work.
Well, that's not where I have the issue. I don't care if you take Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase. I think you have to take a quarterback here. You're not guaranteed to be back in this spot in the position to take a franchise quarterback. And Sam Darnold has shown nothing to show he's a franchise quarterback. Even if he improves.
Well, he's had nothing to work with.
I mean, that's fine. Neither is Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, we know Joe Burrow's the real deal. You can tell
it's the real deal, and yet Detroit has never touched the divisional round.
Locke has everything to work with. He has a great receiving core, and he's shown nothing to this point. If the guy is the guy, if you think you have the guy, he will show you instances where he is the guy. Joe Burrow played behind the worst line in the NFL. Granted, he got hurt. Before he got hurt, that 7, 8, whatever it was game stretch, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL as a rookie. So, look, I think the best guys can figure it out. And, yeah. So, if you're a franchise guy, I think you'll be able to figure it out with or without talent around you.
It's interesting. I think what's fun about this offseason that the Jets are the team to watch for because, the draft starts with them basically. We all know Trevor Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. But then at the same time, they could either be making the biggest decision in the draft or they can trade and get Deshaun Watson, who's, the biggest star this offseason. Jets are quite in the pickle. And I think there's, 4 or 5 different outcomes that the Jets are definitely looking at, 5 different options that they're at least considering. And there's probably like 2 of them that we don't even think of. And it's just going to be fun to watch in this offseason, regardless of who ends up being in their team next year.
Moving on, Kiper has the Detroit Lions picking up Justin Fields, number 7 overall. So I think something I want to note here is that he didn't have any trades in his mock draft. So because I don't think Justin Fields will be available with the number 7 overall pick. I think teams are going to trade up. I think Miami and the Falcons, those and the Bengals, those are 3 teams that are probably going to look to trade down here, right? And honestly, look, now that Matthew Stafford, him being traded has been announced and everything, this is a mock that you're going to see quite a bit is Justin Fields to the Lions now, or Trey Lance to the Lions, depending on what the Falcons do at quarterback at number 4, right? The reason I kind of want to discuss this is because I mentioned to you before we started the podcast is that I don't know if it would be the best idea for the Lions to take a quarterback. And look, I know that they are more than likely going to take a quarterback because you need a quarterback in this league. I just expressed to you that, before the podcast started, I just expressed that I don't know if you should take one of these guys who needs to sit a year or 2 and develop, such as a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields. I mean, I guess that's just my opinion. I think those 2 guys need to sit and learn, whereas I think Lawrence and Zach Wilson are ready to play now. So I just don't think it would be a good idea to take Fields and Lance and just kind of throw them to the wolves. You know what I mean? If I'm the Lions, I think you have a very good shot at getting the number 1 pick next year. So maybe it's possible for them to kind of just take best player available at your first round pick and just kind of tank. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen because I really doubt it's going to happen. I would imagine they're going to take a quarterback. So unless they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, which is a possibility, just because Stafford, Jimmy G, you'd have to swap Niners, Lions, like we talked about earlier. So I just want to get your thoughts on the Lions taking Justin Fields, number 7 overall.
I think it's a good pick. I think if you're any NFL team that's top 10 in the draft order and you already know your quarterback room is going to be pretty much empty, you just got to go ahead and attack that quarterback position. This is your rebuilt year, basically. That's when you need to rebuild. And I don't think, as much as we all thought the Jets were going to have the number 1 pick because they were set to basically lose all their games. They basically had, outside of Sam Darnold, that was it. That was their talent. Sam Darnold and a 40-year-old running back, basically. That was their talent. So everyone assumed that they were going to be the worst team. And then they won 2 games back-to-back and gave that up to Jacksonville Jaguars, which a team that is bad, but not as bad as the Jets, on paper at least. So regardless of who you have and don't have, no one purposely tanks in the NFL. Because if the Jets actually wanted to get that first overall draft pick, they could have. They could have easily done it. And it's definitely, which kind of shows that their defensive coordinator was not that smart when he did do an all-out blitz on 3rd down and long against the Raiders. So that kind of shows you how bad that decision was, and it definitely made sense to fire him. It wasn't just because that they had to make themselves look nice. I like the pick. I think Justin Fields is a really talented guy. I think because Detroit's got a new head coach, I think he's out of the Saints system, so he knows how to work with versatile quarterbacks. I think he's worked with all kinds, considering when you have Drew Brees, James Winston, and Taysom Hill in the same room. I think he'll find ways and create an offense that best works for Justin Fields. And regardless if they were to try and not get a quarterback this year and tank supposedly into next year, the quarterbacks next year, they would be just thrown into the wolves as much as these quarterbacks would be. I don't really see a super polished quarterback like the Joe Burrow and the Trevor Lawrences. I don't really see another one like that, unless the kid from North Carolina that you talked about earlier, Ryan, before we started the show, unless he ends up having 55 touchdowns and 4,500 passing yards in the ACC. I just don't see a superstar worth tanking for next year.
All right, let's move on. Your Oakland Raiders, Mel Kiper has them taking Jalen Phillips, number 17 overall, ahead of guys like Kwity Paye, Joseph Osai, Gregory Rousseau, Azeez Al-Jalari. The list goes on. I don't view him as a number 1 edge rusher. And if I'm not mistaken, let me double check real quick. I believe he has dealt with concussion issues, and he's a guy who's, injury prone. I'm not sure. Let me check on that. Just so I'm not saying okay. So here's the deal. Before transferring to Miami, Jalen Phillips is a guy who has medically he's already retired from football once, right? Before transferring to Miami. I can't justify. I don't even think Jalen Phillips is going to end up being a first-round pick, for one. I can't justify taking a guy who has retired from football due to injury ahead of guys who are consensus top of the draft class, such as Kwity Paye, Gregory Rousseau, Joseph Osai. I don't understand taking Jalen Phillips ahead of those guys. It's kind of just weird and strange to me. Maybe Kiper's just kind of high on him as a player, and he wanted to get his name out there, right? I don't know. Maybe you can make sense of this. I can't.
Well, first of all, they're once again called the Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, well, whatever.
Second of all,
until I die.
Second of all, I don't necessarily think it's Mel Kiper saying that Jalen Phillips is the best edge rusher. I think he feels like he's the most looked at pass rusher within the Raiders organization. If there's one thing the Raiders do every year in the draft, no matter where they're at, 1 or 32, they get the guy that they think best fits them, not necessarily the best guy that's on the board. We see this year after year, and I'm not really surprised by this pick. I mean, Jalen Phillips, he's definitely, as John Gruden would call, a grinder. This is a guy who does work his butt off. He did play really well in his last few games for the University of Miami after he transferred from UCLA. And, he definitely has the measurements of, a lot of the other defensive ends that we've seen get drafted in the NFL. So I really think this is more of a who is the most Raiders defensive end we can get. And either way, they definitely need a defensive end. We definitely need, the Raiders definitely need edge rushers. I keep saying we. I'm a Raiders fan, but
it's okay to say we. I understand.
It's hard to say. Anyway, edge rush is priority 1 for the Raiders. And Jalen Phillips, he definitely fits that Raider profile, at least under Mike Mayock and John Gruden. Do they continue the draft like that? I don't know. Will Jalen Phillips stay healthy after he gets checked out by the doctors? I don't know. Only time will tell. And I think that's what's interesting about this draft. Not only is there a lot of uncertainty, but there's also a lot of just character that really plays a role now in the draft more than it really has in recent years.
Well, that leads me to the next pick that Kuiper made. The Colts taking Kwity Paye with the number 21 overall pick. Now, the only reason I wanted to point this out is because I really don't think that Kwity Paye is going to fall all the way to pick number 21. This is by most people's standards, the best edge rusher in the class here. And if he's available at pick 21 and the Colts pick him to pair with DeForest Buckner, I'm gonna be livid, man. That'd be a great pass rush duo. I just don't see Kwity Paye falling that far.
I don't see him falling that far either, just because I feel like there's several teams above that do need some, edge rush. Here it says the New York Giants are expected to get Kyler Pitts, which I'm kind of surprised. I didn't think their tight ends were that bad. I think the receivers are definitely could be a little bit of an upgrade, but I didn't think their tight ends were, that bad.
They do have Evan Ingram for one, but I just think that I think that you look around the NFL in regards to the Kyle Pitts pick. You look around the NFL and the best teams have the most explosive offenses, and they have so many weapons, and you can't cover them all. I mean, look, I could see the Giants taking Kyle Pitts. I could see the 49ers taking Kyle Pitts. I
see the Vikings. They're 14th, and yet he's supposedly they're projected supposedly to get Elijah Vera Tucker, the offensive lineman for USC. I mean, obviously having a good offensive line helps, but I already thought their O-line was pretty good considering how well Dalvin Cook played.
Well, yeah, that and
look, a fairly balanced offense already. You usually need already a good offensive line. I really thought Minnesota needed more of an edge rush type of player than extra protection for Kirk Cousins or another guy to pull for Dalvin Cook.
And I don't get why people are so up in arms about Kyle Pitts. I'll tell you, and one of the picks I wrote down was Daniel Jeremiah has Kyle Pitts going number 12 overall to the 49ers. And Kuiper has Pitts going to the Giants at 11. Look, the best teams in the NFL have the most weapons. It's very simple. You get the most weapons, and you have the most explosive offense, and you win a lot of games, right? It's harder to win with an explosive offense. Kyle Pitts and George Kittle on the same team, and all the Niners run is 2 tight end sets. Can you imagine? It'd be crazy, right? Like, I don't get why people are freaking out. Like, oh, they already have a tight end. It doesn't matter if they already have a tight end. If you can get multiple great tight ends on your team, look at Tampa Bay, perfect prime example. Like, Kyle and Kittle would be unbelievable for San Francisco. The Bills picking Najee Harris, number 30 overall in Kuiper's draft, something that I know you liked. I personally am not a fan of because, the reason the Bills couldn't run the football this year is not because of their running backs. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are already talented guys on their roster. Obviously, none of them are Najee Harris. Najee Harris, for the most part, the consistent number 1 back. Some people have Travis Etienne. Most people have Najee Harris, right? The problem is they should be targeting like a guard because the interior of their line was horrible. And if they can get like Elijah Vera Tucker there at pick number 30, I think that's a great fit.
Yeah, Bills are interesting because they're a team that was already pretty hot, coming into the Kansas City Chiefs game. Other than that DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary, they could have easily had a 12-0 streak, before they got eliminated in the AFC Conference Championship game. I do like the pick. They can easily go anywhere else. I definitely think run game is their number 1 priority, though, in Buffalo. You can't ignore that for a fact. Rather, you get rid of either Singletary or Zach Moss and put, Najee Harris in the mix, would still be entertaining. I'm comparing sizes real quick. Zach Moss is 5'9". Najee Harris, I want to see how much bigger he is. He's 6'2". And yet Najee Harris, he does so much at 6'2", 230 pounds. I mean, he plays like a zone back, but he can easily he's just as dominant as a power back and a receiving back. I really think Najee Harris, he's probably one of the more complete backs, if not the most complete back entering this draft, because he has the size, the speed, the hands. He can do anything. He did everything for Alabama in the backfield. So I think if you put him back there, all of a sudden it changes the way defenses line up against Josh Allen, against Stephon Diggs, against Cole Beasley. I think if you're the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, you really like this pick because now you really get to force defensive coordinators to line up in a certain way. Because if you just respect only the pass game, then guess what? Even if they keep the same offensive line, Najee Harris is going to find a way to get his 4 or 5 rushing yards. He is. And then let's say somehow they decide to throw the ball and Stephon and Cole Beasley are both shut down. I bet Najee Harris ain't going to be shut down then if those two guys are being shut down. There's no way all these good players can be shut down at once. Kansas City has proven that already this past year. Worst case scenario, friggin' Patrick Mahomes, he threw to either Hardman or Allaire. If Kelsey and Hill were both stopped, Kansas City found a way to get 5 yards. And I think that's what Buffalo's trying to just basically do at this point. Find that other weapon Josh Allen can get and still get, 5 yards of play.
I just think that, this is the last thing I'll say about about Najee Harris to the Bills. You've spent very high draft capital on running backs the last 2 years in the draft, drafting Devin Singletary and Zach Moss in the second round and third round or whatever. I just don't see how I just don't see them taking a running back here in the first round. So let's move on to, I already talked a little bit about Daniel Jeremiah's mock, just a few more picks before we go into our mock draft. The Falcons, he has the Falcons taking Trey Lance at pick number 4 over Justin Fields. Now that is a rather interesting one. And I think DJ, if you follow him on Twitter, you'll see he's a big Trey Lance guy. He likes all the physical tools, the huge arm that Trey Lance has. Trey Lance easily has the best arm in the class. Let's just say that, okay? He has the strongest arm, and I think he's kind of making the Justin Herbert, the Josh Allen comparisons with Trey Lance, and I think he's just kind of, and I noticed what DJ likes to do, Jeremiah, in his mock drafts is he likes to put a lot of his favorite players and a lot of his guys higher in mocks. For example, he has the Bengals picking Rashawn Slater, the Northwestern tackle, a guy who me and you usually have going in the 15 to 20 range, going number 5 overall, ahead of Penei Sewell, who people have as the consensus offensive tackle number 1, right? So those 2 picks are kind of what I want to focus on here. Lance over Fields, and then Rashawn Slater over Penei Sewell.
I can't complain about Lance being chosen over Fields because even though a lot of scouts can be at times hesitant to get the FCS level player over an FBS level player, Trey Lance has really performed well for his size, at 6'4", 200 and close to 230 pounds. The fact that he's that big and yet he's so versatile for North Dakota State, and the fact that he was dominating, an entire division of college football, still Division I, by the way. They were still playing at FBS school, once a year. So the fact that he was basically still dominating just shows that he can be a guy for the NFL team under the right system. People were just as hesitant about, Carson Wentz being considered a, top 5 draft pick. And yet all of a sudden he went to the combine and was like, hey, I can do the same things. I was dominating the same way as everyone else. The only difference is I just go to a school that doesn't have the same level of recruiting or the same level of NFL talent around me. But I can do all these things that other NFL prospects can. I really think Trey Lance, he can be a guy for an NFL team. And even though I have yet to really watch the North Dakota State game in full, I've watched his highlights. I've seen his accolades. I have a hard time believing that he can't do the things that Justin Fields. If not, he can't do as much, if not more, than Justin Fields. Because even Justin Fields playing in the Big Ten, in the FBS level, we've shown how he can be a little bit more inconsistent than how Trey Lance was at the FCS. And even just looking at size, again, Trey Lance, I didn't realize how big he was, 6'4", 230 pounds. The way he plays, I thought he was 6'1", 6'2". Looking at Justin Fields real quick, I want to see if he's as big or smaller. I'm pretty sure he's smaller.
He's 6'3" as well.
6'3". Oh, okay, so he's only an inch. Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I think if you're looking for an ideal quarterback, Trey Lance is that inch taller. He's played more consistent, even though it's the FCS level. I really think, even though they're not necessarily having a full-on combine this year, just because I believe due to COVID and some other things.
Yeah, they're not having.
I think if you just do some more test. Yeah, I know they're not having like a full-on combine, but if you just have some type of infield workout comparison between the two, I think you wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance had the upper hand.
Well, Lance definitely has he has better physical tools. That's what I'll say. I know coming into the season, I was a big Trey Lance guy. He only played one game this season because after North Dakota State's their season got canceled due to COVID-19, and so it's just going to be interesting to see what teams prefer, whether they prefer the few years of Justin Fields basically just dominating at Ohio State, or they're going to go for the guy with the more physical talents and physical traits, because we've seen in recent drafts, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, those guys have basically dominated. So it's going to be interesting to see. Rashawn Slater over Penei Sewell, it's not something that...
And even Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Carson Wentz as well. Look, Slater getting picked over Sewell, I don't hate it just because there's other people, other draft analysts that do like other tackles more than Penei Sewell. It just really, it's just that Penei Sewell is so physically gifted, right? These other tackles are just more technique. They just have more refined skills. So there's a conversation to be had whether, again, same thing, right? Do you take the guy with, more technique, or do you take the guy with more physical traits?
If Penei Sewell is available and you need a tackle, or if you just have a young quarterback that you just drafted in the last 2 years, get him. He is clearly, in my eyes, the best offensive lineman in this draft. He's played so well in college. He's dominated defensive lineman. He's probably one of the big reasons, Justin Herbert got to play really comfortable at Oregon. I mean, if you get a guy like this for any team in the NFL, it's going to make your job as an offensive coordinator and the quarterback's job so much easier. You have to get this guy if he's available on your board.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. And as you could see, if you're watching via YouTube, you can see that we have the draftnetwork.com open and we have the mock draft machine open. So now we're going to do a mock draft, and now it's going to be a little bit easier for the listeners to follow along at home, as you can see it. So we don't bore you with just our words. You could actually see what's going on and why we're picking what we're picking, right? So Ashton, you said you wanted the number 1 overall pick, and I'm assuming...
With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. Wow,
Yeah.
you took all the drama out of it, man.
I don't think that there's much discussion to be had with this pick. It's going to be beaten to death in the ground. The draft really starts at pick number 2, right?
Yeah, that's why I let you pick that one instead of me, because I want to see what your thoughts are.
Okay, well, now that I have the number 2 pick on the Jets, I really don't think there's much of a conversation to be had. I'm taking the second best quarterback in the class, Zach Wilson. You need to reset. You trade Sam Darnold away. Do whatever you want. Zach Wilson is the second best quarterback, and he's by far better than Sam Darnold. So let's upgrade a quarterback.
I am the Dolphins with this third pick, and assuming the trade, no trade with Deshaun Watson having anytime soon.
Yeah.
I gotta think you gotta get Penei Sewell. I mean, he's just a standout, great offensive lineman. You need more protection for your future franchise quarterback. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree. There is a chance that Penei Sewell falls to pick number 5 to the Bengals. But in this imaginary world, he's going number 3, and we're not doing any trades in this mock draft. Just a heads up, ladies and gentlemen. So, otherwise, I would imagine some team's going to be calling Miami to jump the Falcons and get Justin Fields. So, but Justin Fields is on the board, and I am on the clock with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, look, they have a lot of needs defensively, but I don't think there is other than Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons has been getting into some trouble off the field issues, so I don't see him really going this high in the draft. I think he'll kind of fall a little bit. I would pick Micah Parsons here. And I think that the Falcons are going to be the ideal trade back. I think they're going to trade back, right? I want to go Justin Fields here, but it's so hard here. Kyle Pitts, I think, makes sense, and so does Patrick Surtain. I want to take Micah Parsons here just because they need linebacker help. He's the top tier defensive player in this draft. But he's gotten in trouble off the field. So I'm going to take Justin Fields here to the Falcons. You can have Justin Fields sit for a few years. Matt Ryan, as he's shown in the years past and last year, he's been getting older. He's been kind of regressing. Once he gets to the point where he can no longer throw the ball down the field like he can, you move in Justin Fields, and I don't think there's a quarterback that is better to learn under than a Matt Ryan. So,
All right. So with that in mind, 5th pick in the draft, Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is going to be healthy. Man, they would have loved to have Penei Sewell, but he's not available. Who's their next best offensive lineman? I know Mel Kiper had him all over the place, but
there's Rashawn Slater, there's Christian Darrisaw. Those are the 2 other top tackles. Samuel Cosme is kind of fallen off a little bit, even though he's still ranked higher than them 2, but the consensus is Slater and Darrisaw are better than Cosme. So if you want to take one of them with the 5th pick, I wouldn't argue. Daniel Jeremiah has Slater going 5 over Penei Sewell, so he obviously views him very highly. I think wide receiver is also an option. Kind of up to you.
I was receiver, but both can go either way. I think I'll actually just go with who's best on the board and give them Jamar Chase. I really think they do need a new wide receiver 1 on that team. I think having someone younger, more talented, and someone that has played with Joe Burrow in college, I really think that easy chemistry will make it an easy, super young but really talented QB wide receiver duo in the NFL.
Yeah, hey, I don't hate. I've been pounding the table for a few weeks now. I really like Jamar Chase going back to reunite with Joe Burrow here in Cincinnati, and I would imagine that he's going to be available unless the Dolphins take Jamar Chase at 3. So I don't hate the pick. Now I'm on the clock with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think it's got to be wide receiver or corner here. We've been going Devontae Smith for weeks now, but I think I want to change it up, and I'm going to shock people here. I'm going to go with the best scheme fit here. I don't know. Do I pick Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley?
For me, the best bet would be Patrick Surtain because he's a Bama corner. I know both guys are talented, but there's just something about an SEC corner
I'm taking Patrick
just
Surtain.
doing much better in the NFL.
I will take Patrick Surtain here.
Excellent choice.
They need help in the secondary. They need help at wide receiver too, but I wanted to change it up. We've been having Devontae Smith go there for weeks, right? Patrick Surtain is now an Eagle, and you are on the clock with the Detroit Lions.
7th pick.
Oh.
All right.
Are you going to go quarterback?
Well, Justin Fields is already gone, so I can't fulfill Mel Kiper's pick. Let's see. They definitely need a quarterback, which means is Trey Lance still available then?
Yes,
he is. All right, give him Trey Lance.
I feel like they're kind of just like drafting Matthew Stafford again, huh?
What's that?
They're kind of just drafting Matthew Stafford again with Trey Lance, right? Guys so physically talented and hey.
Yeah.
All right.
Younger and cheaper.
Okay, I'm on the pick with the Carolina Panthers, or I'm on the clock with the Carolina Panthers. Let me think. I like them going Kyle Pitts. We've been doing that a few times. Micah Parsons is on the board. Caleb Farley's there. But I think I'm going to stick with Kyle Pitts going here, 8 overall, to the Carolina Panthers. I think he's a good fit here. And I think if those top 4 quarterbacks are off the board, there's no reason for Carolina to reach on a quarterback to develop. So you just need to take Kyle Pitts here and give Teddy Bridgewater all you can.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I mean, I've always felt like that Teddy Bridgewater's not leaving the building anytime soon. I really think he's a guy that you can still work with for the next couple, maybe even 3 years. All right, Denver Broncos with the 9th pick. They're pretty good at receivers, so I don't think they'll get either Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. But I tell you what, if they did ever got one of those two guys, their receiving core would be hectic.
Yeah, I don't see them going to receiver either.
They do need more defensive talent, and I think because Von Miller was hurt last season, I think you have to go Kwity Paye, the edge out of Michigan. I really think that they're going to want consistent pass rush year after year, and for them, this is a better play it safe than sorry type of thing.
Hey, I don't hate the pick here, so it's kind of funny that the top 3 players that were on the board, edge, linebacker, corner, those are Denver's top 3 needs other than quarterback, right? So I don't hate taking an edge rusher here. I would imagine Von Miller is moving on after this season. All right. I have the pick here. I am the Dallas Cowboys. I am actually going to, maybe this is going to surprise some people. I'm going to take a tackle here. I think that they are a little
It's not a surprise.
Huh?
It's not a surprise, dude. It's the Cowboys.
Well, their line is
They always use a top 10 draft pick on offensive linemen.
I'm going to take Rashawn Slater here out of Northwestern, a guy that can play all 5 positions along the offensive line. He's plug and play. Their line is constantly hurt, so you could basically put him anywhere to fulfill whatever need. I think that if you're Dallas, your best bet.
No, I mean, it's a good pick.
Yeah.
No, it's a good pick, which is why it's not a surprise though, because Dallas Cowboys, they're always been a offensive line built around team, and this is even a guy that Mel Kiper assumed would fall into Dallas's lap. So no, I like the pick. It's definitely not a surprise. Okay, 11th pick, New York Giants. Oh wow, we're already knocking down most of the NFC East. New York Giants with the 11th overall pick. This is the team that actually needs basically just the best player available. So I will give them Devontae Smith, a wide receiver out of Alabama.
Wow. I don't hate that at all. I actually really like Smith going to the Giants here, if he falls that far.
All right, who you got?
I have the San Francisco 49ers here on the clock. I'm not going to waste any time here. Caleb Farley is going to be a Niner. Richard Sherman's a free agent. There's no guarantee that you are going to be able to bring him back. And even if you do, you need help at corner. So Caleb Farley it is. Caleb Farley, I could see him going as high as 6 to the Eagles. So I think it's an absolute steal here for the Niners.
All right, I have pick 13. Honestly, with the Chargers, you could go a handful of ways because it's not like Justin Herbert had a whole lot of pressure his rookie year. So it's not like you really need to replace their offensive line. Do you want, the most talented offensive line possible around a rookie, or at least a young quarterback? Absolutely. But they're definitely not that bad if you consider the fact that he hasn't really been pressured a lot. And a lot of their games already came down to the barbed wire. So this is a team that easily could have had a winning record. This is a team that easily could get better. I really think they have a solid roster. But to play it safe, I will give them Samuel Cosme, the offensive tackle out of Texas, just because I do think they do have a handful of weapons already. And this is a team that can afford to just have the insurance of having better offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they need line help very badly. They have for years now, and taking a tackle here makes a lot of sense. I have the Vikings at pick 14. I'm either going to go offensive line or take a defensive tackle here, maybe even an edge rusher. Joseph Osai is on the board. So is Gregory Rousseau, Aziz Al-Jalari. One of my favorite draft picks. Uh, where is he at? He's really low. Where is he? He might be a
You're really
linebacker.
going that low.
Might be a linebacker, actually. I'm not going to pick him, but wow, where is he? Maybe he's not. Maybe he didn't declare this year. I saw some of his tape on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh my lord!" Um, I'm actually going to take Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle out of Alabama. This is not a very deep defensive line class at edge rusher or defensive tackle, so I think that if a team is very desperate for them, like the Vikings are, it'll push some of these players up the board. Plus, I think Christian Barmore is far better than the 36th player in this draft. So,
Yeah, can't argue with that. Usually, line play has been big for the Vikings. Offensive line, I think they're good, but defensively, they could have gotten better, as you said. 15th pick, and that's with the Patriots. This is always a fun pick to kind of analyze because you never see New England this high up in the draft ever. They're always either that 31st or 32nd.
yeah.
But they do need weapons, and I think they could go quarterback. They could get a weapon. They really actually have options, which is scary. And who knows? Maybe they'll get all their talent in the 6th and 7th round, like they always have. You know what? With New England, I'm just going to give them the best player. I'm just going to give them Jalen Waddle. I'm going to make it interesting, and I'm just going to give them a solid wide receiver.
They desperately need wide receiver help, and Jalen Waddle is
Yep.
one of the best players in this draft. So somehow he slips to New England right there, right? All right, I have the Arizona Cardinals on the clock here. I could go Najee Harris here. I could go Micah Parsons here, maybe. I mean, obviously we both talked about how he's going to slip down the draft boards. But there's a few teams I think would be willing to take a chance on Micah Parsons. Keep in mind all this stuff that's coming out did happen, 2 years ago. So, um, let me see. J.C. Horn's here. Elijah Vera Tucker. Um, you know what? I'm just gonna take Najee Harris here. Actually, I
Really?
I don't I'm not a big fan of taking a running back in the first round, but this team just look. There's no corners worth taking here either, other than maybe J.C. Horn. I'm gonna take Najee Harris. Why not? Have some fun with it.
It definitely actually fits their system if you think about it. I mean, it's a short throw quarterback with run option almost every other play. Short throws. I mean, that RPO will easily open up if you have Kyler Murray and Najee Harris in the backfield. So I'd like to pick as well. Okay, my Las Vegas Raiders with the 17th pick.
Hmm.
You know what? If honestly, Michael Parsons is, if he does fall that far, I think if all teams to draft him, this low, it's going to be the Raiders. I really think this is a really standout defensive player. And regardless of what articles come out, I think the Raiders will be the team that does take a chance. This is definitely not something out of the ordinary for the Raiders. They're definitely all about giving players their second, sometimes third chance, but it works out. Sometimes it don't. But I think Micah Parsons, he's really talented, really special, and the Raiders overall, they do need help defensively.
No, hey, you're right. I mean, I was going to, if you didn't think about it, I was going to suggest it because I think if Parsons is definitely a Raider type of player, right? All right, I'm on the clock with the Dolphins. We already took Penei Sewell with the third overall pick, if I'm not mistaken. So now we're going to fill our wide receiver need and take Rashad Bateman here, who is one of my favorite receivers coming out. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. You already got the offensive tackle situated, so now you get him a weapon. I think him with Devontae Parker. I mean, it'd be a really good duo in wide receiver core, and you definitely need talented receiving core in that division alone because you got Buffalo. The Jets are going to be up and coming. New England, they just got Jalen Waddle supposedly based on this draft. It would definitely be interesting. You got to have the upper hand in receivers if you're going to be winning. You can't just have no longer just one good quarterback. All right, 19th pick, the Washington football team. What do they not need is the question.
I mean, there's no quarterbacks worth taking here, so
No.
unless you want to take a chance on Mac Jones, so
I
I don't know. It's kind of
It's weird, honestly. They already got Chase Young, so I don't really see them attacking defensive end anymore. They already got a running back. Defense is good. It almost makes the most sense to get Christian Jaroslaw just because of where he is in the draft board. So yeah, just go ahead and pull the trigger on that. I really get more offensive line help like that. Guys like Heineke will actually play more. Will play more and play well.
I think that tackle's a huge need for them. Ever since Trent Williams left that franchise, they've had a gaping hole at left tackle. You could put Darisaw in there. There you go. I don't hate it. Okay, the Chicago Bears with the 20th overall pick. Mac Jones is on the board. I could go Mac Jones here. I don't know if I'm going to. Let me see. I could go Mac Jones, but do they need wide receiver help? I don't know if Mac Jones fits in Chicago either. It's cold weather play.
The question now is what quarterback does.
It's just like
the thing that's worked out for Chicago is the run game.
Tackle. There are some tackles I like here.
Go back to the best available.
I just want to go Elijah Vera Tucker. I could go wide receiver because they desperately need that. You know what? In this world, I'm gonna say that they make a run at a veteran quarterback. And I'm gonna go Kadarius Toney out of Florida, who is quickly rising.
Wide receiver?
Yes, wide receiver. They're losing Allen Robinson.
Okay.
So that they desperately need help at wide receiver. And they need a wide receiver help anyways with Allen Robinson, right? So
yeah,
you lose him. You need to bring in a new number one. Kadarius Toney's having an amazing Senior Bowl. He's flying up the draft boards. Most people think he is a top 20 pick in this draft, and here he is going to pick number 20. I just think that the Bears will figure out their quarterback situation with a veteran. So that is me justifying taking Kadarius Toney there.
Maybe if all goes well, they'll land Stafford. I don't know. 21st pick, Indianapolis Colts. Honestly, they are a team that definitely needs a quarterback. But yeah, man, tempting. You know what? Yeah, give them Mac Jones. I really like his play style, and I really think under Frank Reich's system, he would easily develop as the QB1 in that room.
All right. Hey, I don't hate the pick. especially since I don't think they're going to be in the running for Stafford or Watson here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm on the clock with the 22nd pick, the Tennessee Titans. Here, let me see. Well, I'm going to go edge rusher. Yeah, I think it's just a conversation between Joseph Asai and Gregory Rousseau. I could just go best available based on this draft board. I think that teams are going to be more in love with Rousseau because he's so raw and he's such a great athlete. So I'm going to take Gregory Rousseau here. He was
I like the pick. They definitely need some edge help.
He was a consensus top 10 player coming into the year, and he's fallen a little bit, but I'm going to take Rousseau here.
That's a good pick for the Titans. All right, 23rd, and this is with the Jets' second pick of the draft. They got Ryan. Who did you give the Jets?
They have Zach Wilson right now.
Remember Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
Well, you probably got to go offensive tackle. So Leatherwood's available. I gotta say Alex Leatherwood. I gotta think that he would really be a better fit in the NFL. I don't know. I just have a lot of Alabama bias. I really think that he can be more of an immediate impact for the Jets.
All right, hey, I don't hate taking Alex Leatherwood. You got to protect your new franchise quarterback, right? With Zach Wilson. So now I got the Steelers. A lot of ways I could go here. If Najee Harris was here, I would pick Najee Harris. I'm tempted to take Travis Etienne, but I'm not going to because, as we've seen, their offensive line needs a lot of work. And putting a smaller running back, Etienne's only like 5'10". Putting a smaller running back behind that offensive line is asking for trouble, I think. So I'm gonna take an offensive lineman here. I'm gonna take Elijah Vera Tucker. I'm not gonna take a tackle. And Elijah Vera Tucker actually played tackle in college. He could slide into guard or he could play tackle. It just kind of depends on what your preference is with him. So, and they need help all along the offensive line. So Elijah Vera Tucker it is.
Yeah, good pick. All right. Jacksonville. No. Yeah,
you have Jacksonville.
Okay. I was making sure that was the right pick. Okay.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence.
Pick. They already have Trevor Lawrence. This far down the draft, I don't know if they go. Well, I mean, they can get Jalen Mayfield. I mean, I already see him right there in the thing. They don't really have a whole lot of weapons. I mean, let's see. I feel like we always give him just the best available offensive tackle. That makes so much sense. Actually, you know what? No, because they already have a running back that ran for 1,000 yards, so they're not going to get Travis Etienne. That would have been funny, though. I know.
They have corner.
They have J.C. Horn. I think they need secondary.
You're taking J.C. Horn? J.C. Horn? Okay.
I think they need a better secondary. Yep, J.C. Horn, corner out of South Carolina.
All right. I have the Cleveland Browns here. They need edge help, corner help. I was going to take J.C. Horn to the Browns, but the Jaguars stole him. So I could also go Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of my favorite players in this draft. For some reason, quarterback is listed as one of their needs. I don't know what is up with that. Kyle Trask, no. Lots of linebackers flying up the board as of late. Asante Samuel's here. I really like him. I
would be a good pick.
I'm gonna go Jeremiah Owusu. I always mock him to the Browns, and they need linebacker help desperately. Everything on that defense, other than their defensive line. So I'm gonna take Jeremiah Owusu, best coverage linebacker in the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, perfect fit there for Cleveland. All right, 27th pick is the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team that always likes to have a dominant defense year after year. They could really take multiple avenues, though. I really think their receiving core could easily be better, though quite a bit of receivers have already been drafted, with the exception of Terrace Marshall. He's still available. Offensive line. Tight end. I think they're going to stick with Mark Andrews, though. I mean, yeah, they can go for another tight end, but there's none as talented as Kyle Pitts anymore. So I think I'm going to give them the safe pick and let them have Joseph Asai.
All right. Yeah, they need edge rusher help. I've said it on previous mocks. They have both of their starting edges are free agents, so I don't think they're going to have the money to bring both back. So taking an edge rusher makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'm on the clock with the Saints, who are on absolute cap hell. Dark horse team to take Kyle Trask or Jamie Newman, but I'm not going to do that here. They have Taysom Hill. I'll let them suffer with Taysom Hill. I think
receiver.
I'm going to go wide receiver here. I think that they desperately need wide receiver help. Outside of Michael Thomas, they have nothing. Plus, all their guys are going to be free agents, and you can't resign them because you're in cap hell. So, Terrence Marshall, it is. Give Taysom Hill all the help you can, and hopefully, maybe this year you could run it back if you get hot, right?
Yeah, maybe. Best of luck to New Orleans, assuming that Drew Brees will officially retire pretty soon. All right, Green Bay Packers, 29th pick in this draft. They were a team that needed wide receiver, but the Saints probably just stole their guy. Ron Moore is available.
All these guys are really good. Like, the depth of this wide receiver class is so good.
Yeah.
I know that Dwayne Estridge out of Western Michigan's climbing up people's draft boards for what it's worth.
Let me see the overall. Their offensive line's pretty young, so I don't know if they're going to replace.
I know that Kevin King is a free agent, and he lost them the game. You could go corner here. A lot of people liking Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State.
Go back to wide receiver. I think I'm gonna give them Rondale Moore. It looks sort of like a reach just because
It's not a reach.
I don't know. He's projected a mid-second round, but I definitely have watched him play, and I definitely think he's talented enough to be an instant game changer, especially for a team that already has Devontae Adams. So they're not asking him to be wide receiver number one, and they're just asking him to be that other guy to help Devontae Adams get more open.
And just because it's a reach on this draft board specifically doesn't mean it's a reach. So, all right, I have the Buffalo Bills. I want to go offensive line here because I think that's their biggest need. Are there cornerbacks available? I could go Asante Samuel. I could also go linebackers, Zaven Collins, Nick Bolton, Dylan Moses. Jalen Mayfield's available. Any interior guys? I'm actually going to go Wyatt Davis here from Ohio State. I think guard is their biggest need, and he's one of the best guards in the class. If you could, he is the best guard, but it just kind of depends on where you view Elijah Vera Tucker if he's a tackle or a guard. So
definitely need help in all line. I think it's a good pick. All right, Tampa Bay with the 31st pick. They're pretty good at running backs. They got quarterbacks situated fairly for at least 2-3 years. Good at tight end, good at receivers. Offensive line could be better. Let me see best available. Oh, never mind. Already. Oh,
Mayfield
right there at 28. Oh yeah, get him Jalen Mayfield.
All right.
That just makes sense. Their defense is already pretty talented. I think a lot of those guys are going to be able to keep as well. A lot of their best players are still on rookie contracts. So yeah, makes sense there.
Mayfield is also he's kind of a smaller tackle. He has the length and the arm length to play tackle, so he's not going to be beat by defenders. But he is a shorter tackle, so he could fill in at guard. I have the Kansas City Chiefs pick, number 32 overall. Let's see. I could go linebacker, could go wide receiver. They're losing a lot of guys in free agency.
You could go offensive line. They do have a really young.
Yeah. I could also go.
They do have a fresh offensive line right now.
I feel like Kansas City would be a team to fix their O-line through free agency, though. Get like veterans that they can rely on. I
Maybe.
don't know. Let me see. Um, Zaven Collins is interesting. Let me see. Yeah, he's the really athletic one. Or is it Nick Bolton? That's the athletic one. No. It's Zaven Collins, who's like 6'4" as a linebacker. That's huge for a linebacker. He's an athletic freak, but they just drafted Willie Gay, so I don't know if they're going to do that. You know what? Let's go wide receiver here. And we're going to take one of my favorite players in the draft, Dwayne Estridge out of Western Michigan. He did not have the quarterback play, being as he's from Western Michigan, to stand out. But at the Senior Bowl, he's been kicking these DBs, you know what. So Dwayne Estridge, and there you go. Quick little scroll through of the picks for all you ladies and gentlemen watching at home to see. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Penei Sewell, Justin Fields, Jamar Chase, Patrick Surtain, Trey Lance, Kyle Pitts, Kwity Paye, Rashawn Slater, Devontae Smith, Caleb Farley, Cosme, Baymore, Waddle. As we keep scrolling through, Harris, Parsons, Bateman, Darrisaw, Tony, Mac Jones, Russo, Alex Leatherwood, Elijah Vera Tucker, J.C. Horn, Joke, Osai, Marshall, Moore, Davis, Mayfield, and Estridge. So, yep. Pause it anytime you want, ladies and gentlemen, to scream at us that we got it wrong. So, with that being said, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I just stopped sharing my screen just to make sure. All right. Unless you want to add anything else, Ashton, I think we're going to call it, right?
No, that's pretty much it. Definitely looking forward to this NFL offseason. The Super Bowl is still a week and a half away, so there's still that to look forward to. But it's interesting to see what the Jets do, whether they trade, whether they pick, and if they do pick, who do they pick? Heck, even if they trade, who do they trade? Do they go for Matthew Stafford? Do they go for Deshaun Watson? I mean, the Jets have a lot of avenues that people don't really realize. Usually, when it comes to offseason moves, it's usually A or B. They really have A through E at this point. So, really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to the Super Bowl. Best of luck to both the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it here at the Stampede. Now, if you could just take a moment, like the video, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Out of those three podcast platforms, whatever you're listening on, do us a favor, and however you can support us, please do. We'd really appreciate it. It maybe one day we will be able to do this full time, and with your support, we'll be able to do that, right? So,
The dream.
Yep, that's the dream. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Stampede with Ryan Jones and Ashton Yanez, and we will see you next time. Bye.